It's amazing, but finally the world's recognizing what China really is as a country. It's a totalitarian dictatorship. We've seen it with the Tibetan people, how they've been abused over the years, and now the Chinese have cracked down on them. There's a few snippets that have gotten out on the news where you can see the tanks rolling down the streets and people being beaten up, and about 100 people supposedly were killed during that a couple weeks ago. China has been rounding up First Amendment advocates, people who go on the internet and just protest what China is doing, or just passing out petitions. They disappear. They go into re-education camps. So it's well known what China does in terms of its persecution. One area that's grossly overlooked, and most people, it's never reported on stations like CNN or the other major networks, is the religious persecution that goes on in China. And it's rampant. It's been going on for years. It's sort of the secret in the closet that no one talks about. And specifically the evangelical church in America, which I want to get to in just a moment. But China has a state church, and they frown greatly upon people who worship in home churches. They want them to gather together in state-run churches. Of course, we know what that's all about. That's the state, the merging of separation of church and state, and you have the government that's dictating religion. Well, real Christians don't want that. Anybody that has any kind of spirituality will disagree with that. So, home churches have sprung up around China. And lo and behold, Chinese authorities are swooping into homes, dragging people out in the streets in some instances and beating them. Some people have been killed. The Rutherford Institute on their website, at this particular website at rutherford.org, has a series of pictures showing some of the more horrendous acts of people being forced to kneel on bricks hour, the hands up in the air till pain overcomes them. These are Chinese, you can see the Chinese officials standing around them. You have people laying on their back with water being forced down their throats. And this is all, folks, just for wanting to worship in their own homes. That's it. That's the only crime. We have a great photo on our website of a person being batoned in the head of an electric prod or a taser. The man's actually being tasered in the head. Why is he being tasered in the head? Because he simply wants to worship God on his own in his home. So that's what it's come to in China. Now we have the Olympics around the corner on August 8th this year, the big kickoff and that. And we see people are protesting the torch, the lighting of the torch around the world. But that's not enough. It's hanging from the Golden Gate Bridge, one fellow hanging out a sign, those kind of things, that they're fine. But what we really need to do and focus on, not just the people in Tibet or the people that have been rounded up for free speech activities in China, but what about these Christians over there having their heads smashed in, their skulls cracked and tasered in the head simply because they want to worship God in their homes? What should be done? Well, first of all, we have a president who claims, quote unquote, to be a Christian. He's silent. In fact, he's supposedly he's going to show up for the opening of the games. Where most world leaders, Prince Charles, the head of the German government, and others have all decided they're not going to show up. Steven Spielberg, a Jewish fellow, has backed out as the creative director of the games because he thinks they're horrible people, what they're doing. Our so-called Christian president, his mouth's silent and shut. He doesn't say anything about any of that. The major corporations, Coca-Cola, you go down the line, Adidas, and making all this money off of advertising for the Olympic Games, their mouths are closed. But the worst people in this situation, the worst, absolute worst people is the evangelical church in this country, which is silent, the deafening silence. Their mouths are closed shut. They're not saying anything about what's happening to their fellow Christians in China. And the word is sin, S-I-N, in all capital letters. I don't often say that, but it's time that we call a spade a spade. When I watch television, I see people like Jonathan Falwell, who see this father was preaching with a Lamborghini behind him on stage. Rich churches, prosperity gospel in this country where the Christians are supposed to be wealthy and go off driving in Lamborghinis off into the sunset, while people over in other countries are being horribly persecuted because they want simply to be Christians. So shame on American Christians, from James Dobson to Pat Robertson to Jonathan Falwell, any of those people whose mouths are closed on this issue. They need to get up call for a boycott of these games and fight for their fellow Christians. And they need to urge that guy in the White House who supposedly reads the Bible, but we don't know, of course. Obviously, he's not reading the Bible that I read, to at least take a stand on the issue, a moral stand. If not, folks, it's time to pray for America.